So, some more unused Sonic 2 content. Hilltop Zone has at least partial support for two-player mode. You might be thinking, wait, what two-player mode support? I mean, what's stopping a level from just working in two-player mode? A lot, actually. Two-player mode is complicated, all because of the split screen effect. Data has to be formatted a certain way. Extra code needs to be written specifically for two-player mode. And it's extra code that Hilltop Zone has. It's not enemies or bosses or anything like that, but it is background scrolling data, or should I say, scrolling code in general. See, this is what it looks like when a zone doesn't support two-player mode. In this case, Chemical Plant Zone. It looks bloody terrible. I mean, look at this. The foreground, you can't even see anything, and the background, well, let me just disable plane A so you can see better. The background just looks rubbish. Like, well, one, the background ain't even moving for Tails at all. When Sonic moves, Tails' screen moves as well. It's because it's using the one-player scrolling code where essentially the two screens are combined instead of split. Now, if I just put plane A back on, you'll also notice that, again, the foreground moves for Tails when Sonic moves. But only horizontally. It's just a quirk of how the code works and how the hardware works. But yeah, so this is what a zone that doesn't support two-player mode in the slightest looks. The art is garbled, all that. But here's Hilltop Zone. It is way, way better. Now, of course, the level graphics are good, but that's to be expected considering this level shares most of its assets with Hilltop Zone, which does support two-player mode. No, what's most notable is the fact that the scrolling works, and this isn't just some accident. This isn't just it's broken in Chemical Plant because reasons, and it works in Hilltop Zone because reasons. No, it is very specific that Hilltop Zone has two-player mode, two-player compatible scrolling code, and yet the rest of the level clearly doesn't support two-player mode. You have enemies that are just glitching out like this one. The background doesn't work. Things actually load and unload in a really weird way that I'll get to in a sec, or maybe I could show it off. I don't know. Either way, let's just take a peek at the code. So, this is Hilltop Zone's scroll. Oh, sorry, I'm going to zoom that in for you. This is Hilltop Zone's scrolling code. It's very elaborate. Sorry. It's very elaborate, I can assure you. But it doesn't work in two-player mode. So what the code does is right at the very start, it checks if you're in two-player mode. And if you are, it does some two-player specific code. And it's nice, but it doesn't do anything fancy. If you remember right, Hilltop Zone, normally the clouds are moving. And this is something that could have easily been added to the two-player code. There's no reason the background, the clouds, couldn't scroll in two-player mode. The code is just unfinished. I don't remember if there's a prototype of Sonic 2 where the clouds don't move in single player either. And if so, then this is a leftover from that prototype, that era, that phase of development. But yeah, so it works, it does its job, but it doesn't do anything particularly Hilltop Zone-y. But it is very much, it is definitely Hilltop Zone's code. It's attached to Hilltop Zone's one-player background code. It's not used anywhere else. It's right after the Hilltop Zone scrolling code. So you might be thinking, was Hilltop Zone meant to be a two-player map? I probably no. It's hard to say because it does share so many assets with the two-player compatible Emerald Hill Zone. In case you haven't noticed yet, Hilltop Zone is just Blue Emerald Hill Zone. Alright, hopefully I can show this off here. Check this out. This is a reason why I don't think this was ever meant to be a two-player map. See, it just disappears. Why did it disappear? Well, if I'm assuming correctly, that little, whatever you call it, a platform gondola, disappeared because two-player mode has a very specific object management system. I'm not sure why it works the way it does. The one-player method should have been mostly okay, I think, with a little work. But anyway, objects in two-player mode need to be specially identified. So for example, if I switch to Emerald Hill Zone and I select a moving enemy like a buzzer, I know you can't see it, the DPI is a bit too high, but there's a property of this magnet called long distance. Essentially what it is, if I remember right, it basically means that the object never despawns. It's always in memory. Just to prevent issues where if it did despawn, it could despawn while one player is still looking at it. It's complicated. Either way, coconuts, that thing doesn't move, so its long distance flag is false. Buzzer does move, it's set to true. The bridge doesn't move, it's set to false, etc. I haven't done an exhaustive check, but I'm pretty sure not a single damned object in Hilltop Zone ever uses the long distance flag, because its object placement was never optimized for two-player. This thing moves, but its long distance flag is false. What else in this zone moves? Gondolas. False. If they were true, it probably wouldn't have despawned. Not to mention this level, Hilltop Zone, does some very elaborate stuff that just wouldn't work in two-player. Like this big area of this room here fills with lava, and there's a section like the ceiling comes down on you or something. That's achieved through turning off the background and turning it into a second foreground. I'm pretty sure you couldn't do that with two-player. Maybe you can, but what do I know? I'm not much of a two-player mode Sonic hacker. I neglect it and work on single player. But still, this wasn't optimized for two-player mode. The objects weren't anyway. The art partially supports it, but this thing's hat here, this little, I know you can't see it's too damn small. This little spiker fella, his little hat, its little hat, wasn't optimized for two-player. The dynamic this between the big mountains, that wasn't optimized for two-player. I think it clashes with some kind of plane data, and that's why it's all corrupted. Because that's not normal. That's clearly something else using the space. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. Peculiarly, bleh. Hilltop Zone has scrolling code for two-player mode, so it doesn't look completely terrible. But otherwise, it doesn't support two-player mode in the slightest, which makes me wonder why there's two-player scrolling code there to begin with. Being that this is based on Emerald Hill Zone, maybe Hilltop Zone was an early level and didn't have many two-player compatible zones to test with, so they just kind of quickly slapped this together just to test it out before they had the other levels ready. I really have absolutely no idea, but yeah, haven't seen this document on TCRF. Seems to be just me that knows about it. And as is seeming to quickly become my motto, TCRF may not know about it, but I do, and hopefully now you do too.